I love The Legend of Zelda. I think the games are fantastic. But when you actually stop and think about it, think about the ordeals Link has to go through. It is a massive ordeal for not only an adult to go through, but also Link, who in most cases is a 10-year-old child. Because let's actually think about the story of most Zelda games. A 10-year-old boy living a casual, carefree life is suddenly thrown into a position of power where he is responsible for the fate of the outcome of the kingdom. That's quite an ordeal. That is a lot of pressure to put on a 10-year-old's shoulders. But it goes levels deeper. From that point, he has to risk life and limb on a daily basis, going through dangerous ordeals that even the royal guards of Hyrule aren't equipped to do, let alone a child who has no training and must figure this out immediately, otherwise face the end of the world, and must come to terms with not only killing monsters, which, yes, sure they're monsters, but still a sentient life form that he is having to come to terms with killing, but also learn to kill demi/actual gods. So, let's actually ask the question, which Link has the most PTSD from his journey? Hi, hello, and welcome to the video. My name's Danahan, and this is a one-day project where I have one day to make the video. From the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep, I have to write, record, and edit the entire video. If I don't get it done in time, whatever the final project I have at the end of the day is what you get. So, first and foremost, let's get the Links out of the way who probably don't have either the worst or any PTSD from their journey. Sure, they'll probably be a bit messed up, but I think they'll get through it. First, we have the first Link, actually, the original Link from the original Zelda game. Even though this isn't technically the first game in the timeline, it is still the first game-wise storyline Link. The Legend of Zelda Link from the original game. And this one, I don't think he has any trauma. I don't think he has any PTSD. I think even though he is only allegedly 10 years old as well, he is choosing Garden Adventuring. He has chosen to go adventuring. He has chosen to go hunt for the Triforce. And he has chosen to put himself in those things. He is an adventurer who is choosing to go on that adventure. He may just be an adrenaline junkie. He may just be a madman. Who knows? But I don't think he will have any long-term ramifications from his journey, except from getting shot down by Zelda, because chances are you don't go through, 8 dungeons and risk your entire life for, a green rupee, do you? Kind of awkward. Get a bit friend zoned. He's like 10 years old. I think Zelda's like 10 years old. That was a dumb comment. Next up, we have the OG Link from the first Zelda game. Not the first Zelda game, but the first Zelda game. Skyward Sword Skyloft Link. And this one, much like the much like the original game Link, the OG original gangster Link. Oh, this is all falling apart. Much like the original Link in the first game, the Pixel Link. Much like this, I could have just done this, yeah. Much like this Link, I think Skyward Sword Link wouldn't have much trauma because he is actively choosing. He is already an adventurer who is choosing. Sure, he didn't choose to be the hero who became who he did or to have to fight all these dangers, but he already was an adventurous soul who chose to go where he did. Sure, it wasn't what he wanted, but he still took it in strides, and I think, sure, he may have some residual problems, but with enough therapy and enough time, he will come to terms where he can sleep peacefully at night and think, yeah, that was great. What did that guy mean, permanently being reincarnated for all eternity? Next up is Minish Cap Link. And this one, I don't think he has much trauma at all, actually. I think the idea of being able to go from big to small, sure, that is weird, that's freaky, that's a bit alarming, but throughout the game, Link does it so many times, it just becomes second nature to the point that it doesn't even faze him by the end of the game. He's like, yeah, so the other day I was sitting up in Hyrule and then went down to the Minish Cap. I shrunk down to the size of... That's not normal, is it? But he just kind of gets used to it. He's like, oh right, yeah, I was this big, then I had a magical cap and a magical log of wood, and now I'm this big. That should freak me out, but it just doesn't. I would imagine when Minish Cap Link thinks back on his journey, he thinks it's more just, that was weird, as opposed to waking up in a cold sweat and thinking, oh my god, I can shrink! Which I also think is true to A Link to the Past Link, Oracle of Ages/Ages Link, and what's the other one? No, it's just that one, yeah. A Link to the Past and Oracle of Ages/Season Link. They would just wake up and be like, man, my childhood was weird. Anyway, on with my day. Now we get to the big question though. Which Link actually has trauma and which Link has the most trauma from his journey? And honestly, I don't actually have a clear-cut answer for this. I thought it'd be one of those things where I'd be like, here's the clear answer, obviously this one. But the more I wrote, the more I was like, this one has a good argument. But so does this one. Then again, so does this one. Huh. So, I decided to leave it up to you guys. I'm going to present my arguments and it's up to you to decide which Link has the most trauma. Fun, isn't it? You decide which of these contestants has the most trauma. Is it Link number 1, Link number 2, or Link number 3? You choose now and contend them to therapy. Choose your Link now. So, first and foremost, let's talk about Wind Waker / Phantom Hourglass Link. This was my original argument for the most traumatic Link. After living a peaceful, carefree life on Outset Island, living with his family, living with his living with all these lovely people on the island, on his 10th birthday, Link savagely sees his sister get kidnapped by a giant monstrous bird, which, okay, so, those exist, I guess. Holy hell. So, I was living a carefree life on this little island and, something like that just exists. That exists in the world and there's nothing we can do about that. Okay, that is a lot for my 10-year-old brain to process. Oh, what's my sister being kidnapped? That's a lot, that's traumatic, what if I lose her forever? That's terrible. But if he wants to save his sister, not only does he have to go off and try and fight that giant goddamn monster, but he also has to fight all the other monsters as well, and risk life and limb where he is a 10-year-old boy who has never left Outset Island, risking his life fighting these monsters that will kill him. Sure, he's trying to kill him as well, and that is traumatic alone. You give a 10-year-old a knife, go, okay, kill him, or else he's going to kill you. That's trauma enough on its own. But having to repeatedly do this, and do it to try and save your sister, is traumatic. However, that isn't even the extent of it. He also has to fight boss demigod creatures, such as the bosses, which are, you know, would crush him in one if he messed up. And sure, yes, they're only monsters, so there's a level of disconnect from I'm killing a person to I'm killing a monster, but that is still a living creature who, in many games, has been shown to actually be, like, not actually wanting to be vicious. They just want to live their life, but because society has decided, that's the whole argument, but because society has decided that they are monsters, they're treated as monsters, therefore they act as monsters. But that's a whole philosophical discussion. Does a monster become a monster if they're treated like a monster, or will a monster always be a monster? But moving on from that. But even so, Link still has to constantly kill hundreds and hundreds of life forms. Which, yeah, if you have never killed something before in your life and you give a 10-year-old knife, go, okay, save your sister, kill all these creatures. He is going to be waking up in a cold sweat for the rest of his life. Sure, he'll make it used to it, and that's even worse because, you know, the trauma of getting used to it and being like, stab. Oh, I just killed someone. Hi, stab. I just killed someone. Hi there. Ha! I just killed someone. Or I guess it'd be Link. Hi! I just killed someone. But yeah, eventually I'm sure you get used to it, but throughout the game you don't actually think about how, like, yes, you are a 10-year-old killing lots and lots of life forms. That'd be traumatic. But it goes a step further, because by the end of The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, I mean, the fact that there's a talking boat probably messed you up enough, like, oh, boats can talk. That brings a whole new understanding to how anything works, but sure, whatever. You also meet the frog brothers that are literally gods just controlling the ocean. That's another level. But by the end of The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, you as a 10-year-old boy who over the last month of your life, maybe a year, let's just be generous, it's an entire year, but realistically it's about a month's worth of time, has fought through countless monsters, risked life and limb, nearly died several times, killed demigods, now has to kill Ganondorf, an actual human. And sure, butchers butcher animals every day. They got no qualms about it, they're providing meat for their family. Cool. Tell them to kill a human. See how hesitant they are then. And a 10-year-old boy has to do this. But it's the fact of it's either kill or be killed, or either kill Ganondorf or let the world fall into ruin. And that is a lot of responsibility and pressure and trauma to put on a 10-year-old's shoulders. So, this is why this is my original argument for this guy being the most traumatic. But it goes steps further. Let's talk about his events during Phantom Hourglass. So, it's not actually directly the actions Link takes during Phantom Hourglass that I think would mess him up. But I think it's the knowledge of the awareness that hey, there are gods that, first off, there are multiple dimensions of Zelda world where other life forms exist that can rip me from my reality into theirs. Which, if you haven't played, by the way, if you haven't played Phantom Hourglass, that was a massive spoiler, sorry, but also it's like a, 15-year-old game at this point. I'm also going to spoil Link's Awakening, so that's another thing. But yeah, at the end of Phantom Hourglass, you find out that actually you were in a different dimension that you were pulled in through the Kingfisher, who had the ability to drag you from one dimension to another. So, 10-year-old Link, who has just fought through life and limb to save his Hyrule, has discovered, oh, there are other dimensions out there with different monsters in there, and that's horrifying. How about that? Also, man, my soul sucked out my body if I don't get out of this temple in time. That's another level. There's a lot of trauma here, but it also raises the question for Link to ask that, if another dimension exists where I can be dragged to, how many other realities exist, and how many different Hyrules there are, and how many different Hyrules are there where I exist, and does anything I do actually matter in this reality if I am just one of an infinite amount of Links? I'm 10 years old, I just celebrated my birthday like a month ago. Why is this happening? I just wanted cake. And then I've got an existential crisis for the rest of my life where nothing can matter. Yes, that was my argument for why Wind Waker Phantom Hourglass was the most messed up. But let's talk about Ocarina of Time Majora's Mask Link, shall we? Because, oh boy! This is where it gets interesting. This is where the argument becomes, like, right now it's like, okay, yeah, Wind Waker, obviously. Let me present my argument for Ocarina of Time! Actually, no, before I do that, let me present my argument for Twilight Princess Link, because this one's a bit smaller argument. But this one's interesting because this Link is one of the oldest Links we play as, because he is 17 years old. Around 17 years old as a farmhand living his life who has been training to be a soldier. Even though he's a farmhand, he is skilled with a sword, so he is ready to face things. And as a 17-year-old, he is a lot more equipped to deal with these distressing situations than a 10-year-old child would be. But he also gets transformed into a wolf and his entire body morphs and shifts. That's pretty traumatizing. Sure, that will probably take a while to get used to, but eventually I feel like he would come to terms with this. Throughout the game, he does it repeatedly, and the more you do it, the less traumatic it's like, oh yeah, I was a wolf yesterday, now I'm assuming I'm about to be a wolf again in a few minutes. That's weird, and it should freak me out, but I'm just so used to it at this point that I'm not even faced by it. That's not the massive trauma here. The massive trauma I think he would be facing from is the fact that in wolf form, Link can talk to every single animal, and every single animal is presented as having cognitive ability and awareness and able to hold a conversation. This means they are sentient, aware life form. Now think about this. In the world of Hyrule, there's probably a lot of meat, like sure there's a lot of farms and vegetables and all that, but the main foods will either be farm food or meat. And every time Link walks down an aisle of the shopping bazaar or something, he will see all these hanging carcasses of chickens, of pigs, of whatever animals exist in Hyrule, of all these different like pieces of meat, and realise, oh god, in wolf form I could talk to them. They were telling me about their lives. They had sentient lives and were communicating with me. These are sentient life forms that I am now surrounded by. That are now just, I'm going to eat these creatures. Oh god. So yeah, I think you'd have a lot of trauma with that, trying to process that, where before you thought like, oh yeah, they're mindless animals. No. They're sentient life forms that can actually communicate with you in wolf form. So there's got to be some trauma there. But now let's talk about Ocarina of Time Majora's Mask Link, shall we? But before we do, I'm going to get a drink real quick. Also, sorry if you can hear my fan going right now. It is 28 degrees right now and it is very warm. So, where were we? Oh yes, Ocarina of Time Link. Let's talk about him, because this one is multi-layered on so many layers, which is the definition of multi-layered. Let's talk about him, shall we? So, first and foremost, we have a 10-year-old boy who has been living his life as a Kakiri for his entire life, and that's all he's known. Until one day, he goes up to the Great Deku Tree, he goes, yeah, sorry bro, kind of lied to you. You're not actually a Kakiri, you're just a Hylian that we found in your mother's dead arms, and we took in, and now we're looking after. So, your entire life is kind of a lie. Sorry about that. We probably shouldn't have lied to you, but we did. Doesn't mean we love you any less, just because you're adopted, but, you know, you're not actually a Kiri. Which, you know, would be kind of distressing to learn that your entire life actually fully was a lie. But hey, you know, with a few days, months, or even years of refreshing this information, you can come to terms with it. But he doesn't have time to do that because now he needs to go inside the Great Deku Tree, a deity god that's watched over him, and fight through the dungeon inside his body. Sure, that makes sense. But hey, how bad could it be? And then he has to fight an abominable hellspawn creature that is Gomar, and learn that, hey, by the way, there are these 20-foot spider abomination creatures that exist in the world. Happy 10th birthday. Well, I don't know if he's 10 years. I don't know if it's 10th birthday, but he's a 10-year-old kid living in a Kiri forest, just learned that he was adopted, and now he needs to fight these abominable creatures that exist in the world. That would mess you up. But hey, you kill the giant spider, everything's fine. You just go back to your life living. Now you have to leave the Kiri forest and go into the real world, which we have not told you anything about. And you have to make your own way, because you cannot stay in the Kiri forest anymore. You must go out and you must save the world, a 10-year-old boy who is adopted. Go on. I mean, you woke up this morning to run a fairy and now you need to leave the forest forever. That's quite impactful. And yeah, sure, this is all traumatizing, but at least you have time to actually process this as you leave the Kiri forest. No, just kidding. The princess got kidnapped and you need to go fight through 2 giant dungeons in the span of a week's time. Okay, no time to process it. Hey, you fought through the 2 dungeons, you got these 2 pretty stones. Hooray! You can now process this. Now you suspended in time for 7 years, and a few moments later, you're 17 years old. I mean, you were 10 years older like a minute ago, and now you're 17. And a week before that, you were a Kiri living a happy life. Then you were a Hylian without a home in the wilderness, and now you're a 17-year-old, 10-year-old boy. That'll mess you up. Hey, even the layer on top of that, guess what? Because you opened these doors and waited for 7 years, you let Ganon get into the secret realm, and now the world is doomed because of your actions. Way to go, 10-year-old boy who's adopted and isn't actually a Kiri, and now is 17-year-old stuck in his 10-year-old body with a mind of a 10-year-old, but is actually 17. No trauma here at all. But hey, you don't have time to process that. You need to go save the world. Oh, you've saved the world. Okay, cool. Oh, fantastic! Fantastic! You've saved the world. It is time to process your trauma. Okay. Actually, no, we're just going to send you back in time to your 10-year-old body. So now you are a 10-year-old boy who was abandoned by his paternal figure. Turns out he's actually adopted. Isn't a Kiri. Found his way into the Hyrule as a Hylian. Experienced that for about a week-long journey, then got transformed into a 17-year-old, had to fight through life and limb as a 17-year-old trapped, or a 10-year-old trapped in a 17-year-old's body, who had no idea how to live in the world, which is now in danger because of his actions, and had fallen into ruin because he had opened a door, which is all his fault, so he has to live with that knowledge that everyone in Hyrule died because of his action, where he's not even a Kiri, and now after like a month-long journey of being a 17-year-old, be like, okay, I've lost my childhood, I'm okay with that, I can live with that, as an adult, I need to protect Hyrule. Guess what, you're going back to your 10-year-old body, so now you are not Kiri that has been killed in the forest, that find out you're Hyrule, that's stuck in a 10-year-old body that actually has the mind of a 17-year-old that has seen the world come to end, and has been sent back in time to your 10-year-old body that no one will listen to because you're a 10-year-old kid. That won't be traumatic at all. But hey, you went back in time, you stopped Ganon's rise to power, you have time to process all that just happened. Sure, a lot of shit just happened, and you know, you've gone from being a Kiri to a Hylian, to being a 10-year-old, to being a 17-year-old, to being a 10-year-old again. There's a lot to process there, but at least you have time to process it. Until a week later where you fall down a giant pit and find there's actually alternate dimensions that you've fallen into. Also, your skin has been transformed into a Deku Scrub, and you are now permanently no longer Hylian, because you're no longer a Kiri, you're no longer Hylian, you're now a Deku Scrub. So you're now no longer Kiri Hylian, stuck in the body of a 10-year-old with the mind of a 17-year-old, in the form of a Deku Scrub, in a different dimension, wherein the world will end in 3 days. You got any trauma there, mate? I feel like you'd have some trauma there. But sure, after all the events that have transpired from the start of Ocarina where you meet Navi to the end of Majora's where you ride off heroically into the forest, you have gone through a massive ordeal with a ton of trauma, and over the span of about 4 months you've experienced more than any normal person would ever experience in their lifetime. There's a lot to process there, but you know, given time, you will eventually learn to process it and everything will be fine. You can live a happy life where nothing else bad's gonna happen. Alright, off you ride into the sunset. Your journey's over, Link. Have fun, enjoy. if we ignore the fact that we know canonically this Link ends up dying at a young age and becoming a Stalfos-like creature lost for all eternity in Limbo, so he must find his way back to Hyrule somehow and have a child, because we know that Link in Twilight Princess is a direct bloodline descendant as said in Hyrule Historia. Therefore, the Link, Ocarina of Time Link, finds his way back to Hyrule, finds a gateway to a different dimension, back to Hyrule, and ends up dying and becoming the Stalfos-like creature, Shade, who is for over a century trapped in Limbo. Sure, there's no trauma there at all. I mean, at least he has time to process all the trauma he has over that 100 years of being a dead, Hylian, Stalfos-like soldier, warrior thing. But there's a lot of trauma there to process, and he has no way of knowing if another hero will ever rise or when it will rise. He will spend eternity in Limbo. So, I think it's obvious. We have our answer, right? It's clearly Ocarina of Time Link that has the most trauma. Because all those events, being told you're adopted, being told you're not actually part of the Kiri thing, being told you have to save the world, being told it's your fault that the world fell into ruin, being told you have to kill someone, being told you have to kill all these creatures, being told that you've saved the day and need to go back to your 10-year-old body, being told that you need to go find Navi, falling into a different dimension, being told that you've been transformed into a Deku Scrub and your entire body has been morphed, being told that the world's going to end in 3 days if you don't save it again after just all that shit, we haven't had time to process it, then riding off into the sunset after saving the world, only to die at a young age and become a Hylian Stalfos. This seems very traumatic, right? Also, we know that because Twilight Princess Link is a blood descendant, Link must have had a descendant, but he was unable to pass off the knowledge that he had as the hero, therefore he must have died before his child could learn that knowledge, so chances are Link died pretty damn young. Maybe not young enough to be a Stalfos, but young enough to be it's a Skull Kid, but young enough to become a Stalfos. So probably like early 20s or mid 20s, early 30s. So he did not live a full life. So that's got to be traumatic. So clearly this is the most traumatic one, yeah? Let's talk about Link's Awakening Link, shall we? Because not only would I believe this Link for every single day for the rest of his life would wake up in a cold sweat, but he would always have one looming thought over him that he would never be able to put to rest for the rest of his life and would follow him for the rest of his life. And I warned you earlier, I'm about to spoil this, so if you don't want to be spoiled on Link's Awakening, you can click off the video now, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All the events in Link's Awakening are just a dream of the Kingfisher, or where it's called Windfish, that's what it's called. All the events in Link's Awakening are just a dream of the Windfish. Now, this isn't too bad. This shouldn't be that traumatizing, except from the fact that during the game, there are people with memories, with loved ones, with stories, with lives, with lived out stories that you interact with and build the world of. And in choosing to wake the Windfish, you as Link actively snub out all of their lives forever. Even if it was a dream, they all had knowledge and history and memories and loved ones and adventure and dreams and everything they wanted to do in their life, and you erased that. You wiped out an entire island of population of people with hopes and dreams just so you can live your life. That's pretty traumatic. But then it goes a layer deeper. See, if that can exist in such a realm where a world that real can exist in a dream, what's to say after you wake up the Windfish, you're not just in someone else's dream who is having a dream about an island that is a dream? What's to say Link actually exists? What's to say that every adventure Link has gone on isn't just part of someone else's dream? What's to say that any day a random person could find the right item to wake up the person who have the dream Link is currently in? What if Link isn't real? And yes, ignoring the fact that it's a game with lines of code, that's a whole thing, but within the world of the continuity, Link would have no way of knowing that, am I in the real world? Did I ever actually wake up from the dream? What if the wake up in the dream was just part of the dream? What if I'm still on, what is it called, Colito? No. Koholint Island. What if I'm still on Koholint Island? What if that was just a dream within a dream and I'm still floating the island? What if I'm dead? Who knows? He will never know for certain if anything he does is real or if anything matters, because at the end of the day, someone could just wake up and he'd be snubbed out of existence. Sure, he thinks he has memories of everything he's done in his life, But what if that's just a memory implanted in him as part of a dream? What if none of our lives are real? What if we're part of a dream? What if we're just part of a giant person's dream out there? How do you know your life isn't real? How do you know it's not a dream? How do you know we don't just exist as a fabrication of some deity's dream? You don't know that. And sure, we can easily say, oh, it has to be real. Of course it feels real. But then, if you experience like a Colon Island, like Link, which felt so real that all this happened, only to wake up in the ocean and realise, oh, the last like month of my life, none of that was real. Oh my god, all the people I interacted with, all the relationships I made, all the friendships and people I chatted with, none of that was real. It felt so real though. Is this real? Am I real? Have I actually woken up or am I still asleep? How do I know? And every single day, for the rest of his life, Link's Awakening Link, living his normal life, even if he's just happy, he starts a family, he grows old, he gets grandkids, he'll be sitting there with his family all around him thinking, what if this is a dream? What if none of them are real? What if it was just fabrication? What if he didn't exist for a week before? What if he thinks only his memories from the past are just his memories, but they're actually just fabrications put in his mind? What if he doesn't have a family? What if one day he wakes up and goes, oh, right, yeah, my wife, my 2 children, they were just a fabrication of my dream. And that would wake up in a cold sweat every single night. Because like Inception, you just have no idea if anything's real. And Link would never be able to prove that without killing himself. So, there's my argument. Which Link do you think has the most trauma? Is it Ocarina of Time Link? Is it Wind Waker Link? Or is it Link's Awakening Link? I also want to make a follow-up on this one about like Breath of the Wild, CGI, and a Link Between World Link, because I think there's an interesting argument to be made there, but this video is, yeah, probably already long enough as it is, so that's my argument. Which one do you think? Contestant number 1, Wind Waker. Contestant number 2, Ocarina of Time. Or contestant number 3, Link's Awakening. Which one has the most trauma? It's up to you to decide. Thanks for watching. I have until the end of the day to edit this. If I don't get it done in time, you get an unfinished video and I have to do a punishment. And it's up to you. Choose what my punishment should be. Leave a comment saying, hey, this video is unfinished. And if it's unfinished, I'll put like a, when my time runs out, I'll put like a thing like, time run out, time to sleep or something. I don't know. But yes, if I ran out of time, it's up to you guys. Decide a punishment and I'll do it. As long as it's not too, obviously, aggressive. But until then, thanks for watching. Hope it gave something to think about, and I'll see you later. Oh, and press those buttons down below to help the channel grow. Cheers!